What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on Knicks Central, and today I'm going to give a little bit of a channel update first and foremost, and then I'm going to get into the offseason, which has just been absolutely stellar for the New York Knicks, and I'm absolutely pumped up to be watching this team because it is just so nice to, like a team that is willing to actually, go through, be aggressive in it, go through some turnover here, which a little side shot at my hockey team. But regardless, we're going to talk about the New York Knicks here, and then I'll give the channel update first, like I said. But before we jump into everything, please be sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you guys are new, especially if you're a Knicks fan, and turn on your notifications so you know when I upload or go live. So first of all, a little bit of a channel update, why I went MIA in the middle of, some of the series there, especially the Pacers series. I didn't really upload that consistently. I honestly just got busy and sidetracked a lot with my Rangers channel, which if you aren't subbed to it, go check it out, especially if you are a Rangers fan. I got sidetracked with that channel quite a bit. And then on top of that, the Mets channel, I manage 3 channels, and it's hard to do on top of having a busy life outside of YouTube, and outside of just sports in general. So it's a little difficult for me to manage 3 channels sometimes, and I try my best here. And some of those losses against the Pacers, I just was so defeated either way that I just wasn't even in the mood to talk about them. So that's kind of why I ended up disappearing, but I'm going to try my best to be more consistent next year in terms of the uploads and stuff, which again is going to be difficult, especially if the Mets somehow make the playoffs. And then on top of that with the Rangers, which I'm kind of suckered into because that channel's the most successful of the 3, but I'm going to try my best. And I just figured, again, I'd give the channel update there and talk about why. And then of course this is going up weeks later, and it's just been a busy summer for me thus far that I haven't really sat down to talk about it. And I know that I've been consistent with my Rangers channel because to me that gets the priority, unfortunately, right now, because I would love to be talking about the Knicks way more. Believe me, this team I'd love to talk about way more and put them first and foremost above all. But again, it's just kind of difficult for that because of the fact that I have those other channels going on, and especially the Rangers. But we're going to talk about the Knicks now and talk about this offseason because it has been unbelievable. And I am absolutely in love with what Leon Rose did this offseason. And it starts with the Mikal Bridges trade, obviously. And I love the idea. And I don't care. I really do not care that they had to give up 5 first-round picks for him. I don't, because at the end of the day, you had these stockpiles, stockpile of picks. At some point, you have to push your chips in and say, you know what? This is the time. This is the year you go for it. This is the year you make the all-in move. And I get it's not the sexy name. I get it's not the name that we're all dying for. But at the end of the day, that type of name was not available. There was nobody on the market that you were going to say, you know what? 5 first-round picks is worth pushing the chips in for. There just wasn't someone that was available to that caliber. And Bridges is a star player. He's not a superstar, but he's a star player in this league. It is no slouch adding a great wing to your roster on top of extending another wing, which we'll talk about later on. But you needed to do this move for a multitude of reasons, because at first, you did not know if OG Anunoby was going to sign an extension, so you needed a safety net where, all right, if he doesn't sign, at least we got Bridges. Now we pivot elsewhere and go out and sign. Maybe they would have signed a Paul George and improved elsewhere on the roster, and then maybe flip Randall for other assets. I'm just spitballing ideas here, but they could have went different routes. They had different avenues, at least, by getting Bridges. And yeah, you add pretty much what you had with Anunoby, and you could argue adds a little more scoring than Anunoby to your roster. But you could also argue a little bit lesser defensively. I don't know if you want to argue that, but I love the fact that, as well, the most important thing is his durability of all things, and knock on wood heavy there. But because if there's one thing that will happen, it's Tibbs running Bridges into the ground here. We all know that potentially, and that could lead to an injury. But regardless, I don't even want to think about that. But I just love the idea of, and then of course, obviously, which I didn't even mention, the thing that's, most crucial of them all, reuniting the Villanova Knicks. And Now you have all of them together, and I love that this also gives you so much flexibility with your roster of, you could go so many different ways of how you deploy the starting five, how you rotate your bench. And obviously, again, it got so much deeper with adding a guy like Anunoby, or extending a guy like Anunoby, I should say, which I guess I'll segue to that. They did sign Anunoby to an extension, 5 years, 212 plus million total. So about 42 million a year, 42.5 million. I absolutely love the extension, and I know that it's a very steep price to pay for a guy like Anunoby, which, again, he is injured. He's a guy that isn't a superstar, but is a star in this league. But you need to keep a guy like Anunoby around. And again, flexibility, because now you're starting five. Donte DiVincenzo is starting games this year. And listen, in the playoffs, there was some inconsistency with them, and that is... that's what Donte DiVincenzo is. He should not be a guy that's expected to be a star in the starting five at the 2. And now you have flexibility there. You could put Bridges at the 2. You could put Anunoby even at the 2 if you want to. But I envision your starting five is probably Brunson at the 1. You go Bridges at the 2. Anunoby at the 3. And then you go Randall at the 4. And as of right now, Mitchell Robinson at the 4, or at the 5. The 4. Imagine Mitchell Robinson at the 4. Mitchell Robinson at the 5. And maybe there's another move coming, which we'll talk about in a bit, because, again, there's just so much to dissect here and talk about. But you had to bring him back simply for the fact that this team was dominant in January when they had this entire group rolling and healthy. And that was with DiVincenzo playing well. Now you get Bridges into the fold. I'm just saying, now you're adding yourself a very talented piece there to what you already had. And now you're talking about Hart and DiVincenzo coming off of your bench. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. And I absolutely love the idea of those two giving, and then you still have Deuce on the bench. And then you end up drafting Tyler Kolek, or Kolek. I don't remember how his name was pronounced. I'm sorry, guys. But you add to your bench there. You have a very deep bench. The only problem is the center spot. The center position is very thin. You moved Bogdanovic, by the way, in that deal for Bridges, which I forgot to mention. Which all I could say with that is I liked Bogdanovic at times here, and it was definitely ugly at times, but later on, he started to perform better. And again, I don't wish him the most success playing for the Brooklyn Nets, but, it was still an up and down ride with a guy like Bogdanovic. And then they also ended up moving Shake in the deal. Shake ended up getting moved in the sign and trade yesterday, actually, I believe. So there is some relevancy to uploading this actually today, at least. So maybe it was a good thing. We get the full details of the trade there. But regardless, yeah. So now your roster is looking like Anunoby, Randall, Brunson, Bridges, Hart, Robinson, DiVincenzo, and then you got Deuce there. And Sims is probably your backup big, which I quite frankly don't feel comfortable with. And I know that Tibbs likes Sims, and it sucks losing Hartenstein. It really does suck. And I know that there's some back and forth because you have talk heads on the radio just giving ridiculous takes about Hartenstein and being like, well, he was a nobody before, but he became a somebody this year, which is relevant. And it's relevant because there was good chemistry with this team going this year with Hartenstein in the fold. And it's just hard to replace that. But there's rumors going around about trading for Kessler out of Utah. And if they could swing that deal, I am absolutely in love, because I like Mitch Rob, but you have to have the question, you have to have the conversation internally. Can you pencil him in for a full 82? And the answer is very quickly no. You cannot pencil Mitchell Robinson in to play 82 games. And I don't feel comfortable, and I'm sure the front office feels that same sentiment, that you cannot trot out Jericho Sims playing big minutes if you have injuries. And then what happens when Sims has to take a rest? Who's coming off the bench? Are you slotting, is Precious Achiuwa coming back? He's slotting in minutes at the 5. Know what I mean? Is Anunoby going to have to play minutes at the 5? Randall? Like, what are you going to do about that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to get more depth in here at the center position. It sucks that Hartenstein signed when he did, because it really put you in a spot where now it's like there's not really a lot of options. A lot of these free agents signed, and now it's just like, what do you do? What do you do outside of explore the trade market, which they're going to have to do? And they still have a good amount of money to spend till they reach the second apron, which is about 19 million. So they do have wiggle room to get that going, and there's still talks about Achua, so that will eat some money. So maybe Achua comes back, or maybe he's part of a sign-in trade. I don't know. But regardless, they have to figure this out one way or another. And I don't know how much more willing they're going to be to trade first-round picks, because if you're going to get a guy like Kessler in here, you're going to have to move a first-round pick or two probably. So I'm not sure how they're going to orchestrate that move. But long story short, they're going to have to do it, because I don't know what you're going to do otherwise if you don't go this route. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens the remainder of the offseason. And all I know is that I'm going to be here to cover it. All I could say is I am very excited already for this Knicks season, despite, again, still needing a big. I'm still very excited, because this season is going to be electric, assuming they could actually freaking stay healthy for once, because that, of course, was what killed last season entirely, because there's no doubt in my mind they would have beat the Pacers with a healthy roster. Like, there is just no doubt. Once OG got hurt in that series, the ship sunk. Like, even if OG was healthy, there was no doubt they would have absolutely won that series. And would they beat Boston? Probably not. But you still are talking about an ECF. And right now, I think this roster is capable of playing in an ECF against Boston this upcoming season thus far. But again, they'll have some work to do, and we'll be here to cover it whenever news breaks about who they potentially trade for or who they potentially sign. We'll be here to break it. And again, I'm going to be talking about them as much as possible throughout the season. But that is going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your notifications so you know I upload or go live. And I'll see you in the next one.